Hello, this is Eldoric The Guardian Tank, here with a brief look at how to tank with a blood DK at level 85. I'm going to slide over here to my DK, Jonin, and we're going to take a look at a few of the abilities that you will use while tanking. Now, we're of course going to start with the primary abilities that you want to concern yourself with. And you won't be using them all the time, but they're definitely the kinds of things you need to know. First is Icy Touch. It's a great long range move, and it puts down one of your major debuffs, the slowing debuff to the attack. So you're going to want to know that. Plague Strike, virtually the same, but does not have that distance. Pestilence to spread around your diseases, very, very useful. And also costs a Blood Rune, which you're going to want to keep using, Blood Runes in general. Outbreak, which allows you to push out your 3 primary diseases, 2 of which are a debuff. So you want to look at that. Outbreak, the main thing about that, it's on a 1 minute cooldown, so you can't use it all the time. Rune Strike, which is your primary threat ability, showing you where I look at it over there. And of course, you have it on your character. You're going to be using that quite a bit. And pretty much anytime you have the runic power, you want to hit Rune Strike. And you can use it now all the time due to a change it had, Death Strike. Death Strike is almost everything to a blood DK. You're going to be using it constantly. It heals you and gives you your mastery, which is Blood Shield, which is Absorption Shield that can handle all kinds of damage. So you're going to be using this anytime you can get it up. DK tanking is all about using Death Strike. Heart Strike is the primary ability you get when you choose the Blood Tree. What it does is it hits your primary target for a large amount and then adjacent targets for less, decreasing every one. And it does more damage per the diseases. Now, it takes away the need to use Blood Strike, but it's pretty good. Now, you got Blood Tap, which is a great ability, and it activates one of your Blood Runes as a Death Rune, giving you an extra rune when you need it. Very, very handy. Blood Boil, Snap Aggro, used a lot by DKs instead of Heart Strike because it won't miss. You can always use it and keep Blood Barrier up. You can see that at the top of the screen. So Blood Boil, critical move. Now you go to Death and Decay. This is your persistent AoE move. It's not on too long of a cooldown, and you can expect to improve that a bit if you want. So an excellent ability there. Let the horsies move out of the way. And you have Dark Command, which is Taunt. Now, moving on to your cooldowns. You got Bone Shield, and this is really an interesting ability because it has 4 charges on you. They have an internal cooldown. While you have any charges up, you take 20% less damage from all sources, and it boosts your damage by 2%. A little threat increase for you there. And you can do it at the beginning of the fight, regain your Unholy Rune, keep it up. It's a great ability to use, and the more Voids you have, the better it is. Moving on, Vampiric Blood. Make it simple, it increases your health by 50% and increases the healing done to you. So it's very good for boosting your health up, gives you a little health boost, and it increases the healing done. And using Rune Tap with it is excellent. Rune Tap, of course, giving you nice healing for the cost of 1 blood rune. You can also get free ones. Icebound Fortitude, your primary cooldown, reduces all damage by 50% by 12 seconds for your big spike damage. So great ability there, really nice cooldown. You're going to be using this less than the other ones, but keep it in mind when you really need to shoot down that damage. Okay, Dancing Runic Weapon. This is the capstone you get for the talents, and it's good. Basically, it just makes an extra sword that does the same things you do and does the damage, and it gives you a 20% increase to parry when you're using it. So really nice avoidance boost. Very good to use with Bone Shield. Strangulate, that's your range silence. It's on a long cooldown, but works great. So keep that one in mind. Okay, and then you have Empower Runic Weapon, 5 minute cooldown, but it basically brings all your runes off cooldown. So when you really need a few extra Death Strikes, great. Horn of Winter, one of your primary abilities there as a buff. Very, very good. Now you got Mind Freeze, this is just primary interrupt, think pummel or anything like that, works great. Death Grip, it's a lot of fun. Grips an opponent, brings them to you. It's also a fixate. Now bosses can't really be brought to you, but you can use the fixate almost like a pseudo cool taunt. Lynchborn, somewhat complicated, turns you into an undead, very good for avoiding fears and charms and everything. If you use it with Death Coil, you can actually heal yourself because it heals undead. So if you have more than 1 DK, if you say you're using that, you can pour on the Death Coils and increase your life. A little tricky to use, but very handy. That's also a talented ability, but you can use it a lot with a 2-minute cooldown. Anti-Magic Shield, the hallmark ability of the DK. You know, it's on a short cooldown, but it reduces magic damage, and you can use it a lot. And magic damage, as we know, isn't affected by armor. So this gives you a good way of dealing with that damage. Chains of Ice is great for kiting, slowing things down. Death Coil, you can shoot out, obliterate. You're really not going to be using. Army of the Dead can be used as a cooldown because you take less damage equal to your parry and your dodge added together. So while you're casting, you can get it. And it just looks cool. Look at that. Little minion army. So very neat ability. Don't discount it. It shouldn't be the first cooldown you go for, but don't discount it as a cooldown because it does reduce your damage. It can save you if you need it. Even with the taunting effect done by the ghouls, getting the boss off you for just a little bit can mean all the difference in the world. Dark Sanctum you're really not going to use, so I won't worry too much about it. You got Necrostrike, won't use it. Path of Frost is just fun, lets you walk over water. Okay, Raise Ally. This is what allows you to actually, it's your combat res. And don't confuse it with Raise Dead. Okay, Raise Dead makes a ghoul. You want Raise Ally if you want your combat res. So make sure you put the right one on there and use it accordingly. So that was a quick look at all the primary abilities of the DK tank. Why don't we go and hop into an instance and look how to use these abilities together. Alright, well, hopping into Lost City, we're going to start a little bit into the instance. We had some lag issues and I want to show you those. Single target, as you can see, I engaged with Outbreak, gain my debuffs up as quickly as possible. I'm using Rune Strike, cycling through. I'm using Death Strike every chance that I get, trying to maintain my Blood Shield and increase my healing as much as possible. Now I am using Heart Strike here more to illustrate that I can miss, and therefore Blood Barrier may suffer. Now don't be afraid that if you're worried about missing, you really need to maintain Blood Barrier, go ahead, use Blood Boil. You just need to expend those runes. Now I'm going to do a quick pull here. Now I don't have, as you can see, Outbreak ready. It's on cooldown, so I had to manually apply my diseases, Pestilence, and now I'm Blood Boiling. Yeah, I opened with the Death and Decay that kept good threat. Now I got a free Rune Tap. Gonna use that when I get a chance. And I'm just going through my rotation again. Rune Tap, and then Rune Strike, and then using Death Strike as much as I can. Maintain my health, and maintaining that Blood Shield, which functions very much like the shield of a warrior or paladin, in theory. Yep, you see me just using it. Excellent. So there we go. Took down that group. This group really wanted me to hurry, so I had no issue pulling. Now we're moving on to the first boss here in the Lost City, and not a particularly hard boss. Remember, this is on normal mode, just to illustrate a few of the techniques. Now again, I open up with Outbreak because I want those debuffs up, and I want to have that cooldown available as soon as possible. And you can see I'm Blood Boiling to use that, Death Striking, I'm Rune Striking, trying to maintain. Now, everyone complains sometimes about something called Rune Tetris. Yeah, I have to spend a lot of time looking at my runes to see what I can use and what I need to maintain. And I fall behind, such as I was a little slow on the Death Strike there. Now that's going to cost me later on. So you really have to be on top of what runes you have available and what abilities you need to use. Those blood runes need to be used to keep that blood barrier up. Now luckily Blood Barrier has a pretty long duration, so it isn't a massive issue. I got a little lag spike there. A massive issue. If you don't hit them right away, you want to maintain them. And as you can see, still hammering away. Using my Death Strike. I have my eyes on my cooldowns. If I, at any moment, start to dip a little bit more than I'm comfortable, I have those cooldowns to kind of smooth out that damage, make me a little less spiky as a DK. Because the healing back model does tend to be a little spiky. You know, this healer is pretty much on it, not having too much issue. Death Strike is healing me back for a good amount, so not worrying. See, I'm using Blood Boil, single target, simply to use up those blood runes, and the boss goes down. So if you want any takeaway from this, you can look at it as you want to use Outbreak to get your diseases up. Death Strike is very, very key. Use it. You tend not want to save it unless you really, really know big damage is coming. Rune Strike when you get the chance. When you really need to use Dancing Runic Weapon, which you didn't see here, you have to save up to use it because it costs so much. So It's a matter of managing your rune strikes to get that resource that you can. Okay? And, everything else is pretty basic. The biggest quandary you're probably going to have is when Outbreak is on cooldown, how do you get those diseases out? Well, you can Icy Touch and you can Plague Strike and then spread them around with Pestilence, but that's going to cost you a Rune Strike to do it. As you can see here, these guys are hammering me a bit. Could get diseases in a big group like that can actually decrease damage quite a bit. So you have to be smart about how you use your resources, more so than almost any other tank. But you see, we got through it, no problem. Used my cooldowns when appropriate and hammered through. So that's DK tanking in a nutshell. Thank you very much, Jonin. Now, as you can see, DKs have a lot of ways to tweak their survivability, and that's very, very useful, much more than almost any other tank has. On the flip side, though, is that they really have to watch their resource systems and the abilities, which ones to use at which times. You master that, and you become an incredibly powerful tank. Well, thank you for joining us here on this quick tutorial video. Also, check out the Guardian Tank podcast available on iTunes. Till next time, this is Eldoric The Guardian Tank, and enjoy your DK tanking.